Hello, this is Mrs. Boots, and we're going to work through the practice problems for the compound inequalities lesson. Remember, with each one of these problems, we got a 2-for-1 special. We got 2 problems in each one. They're little simple problems. We're going to graph our answers in the number line and write it in the interval notation. Okay? So we solve them separately. So I'm just going to do a little squiggle down the middle to remind myself that I have 2 separate problems. So in the first one, number 1, we notice we have this beautiful or. So remember, with the or, that means I'm going to have on my number line something on one side or something on the other with a big old gap in the middle. Okay? So let's look at the first one. First side, left side, what do we do to get x by itself? Remember, we solve these the exact same way as you would a regular equation. So we're going to subtract the 6. 11 minus 6 is 5. Now most people wonder, well, do I need to switch the inequality symbol? No, we only do that if we're if we're multiplying or dividing by a negative, not if we're adding or subtracting. It's only multiplying and dividing by negative. On the right hand side, we have to subtract that 3. So when we subtract the 3, I had x less than equals to negative 5. Okay, so now we are ready to put that on a number line. Remember our number line, all we have to do is put the tick marks for the individual numbers. So I always put them in order, negatives on the left, positives on the right. So we're going from very, very small to very, very big. Okay, and what kind of dot does my negative 5 get? It gets a nice close solid dot, and my positive 5 gets a nice close solid dot. And then from the positive 5, which way are we shading? We're shading to the right. And for the negative 5, we're shading to the left. Alright, so we're almost there. Now let's look at our interval notation. So all the way to the left, this goes negative infinity. Goes all the way up to a negative 5. It gets a closed bracket because it is a solid dot. We do our U shape. So we're going down and under, tunneling under to get to positive 5. That has a bracket because it is a solid dot. And then we go all the way to positive infinity. Alright, so let's look at number 2. Number 2 is the weird looking one. We still have 2 problems in one. The difference is we have 2 different inequality symbols. So it looks like 3 separate pieces. And that's okay, 3 separate pieces. The one that I'm trying to solve is in the middle. So I'm going to take the variable in the middle and get it by itself. So notice I have a positive 5. I need to subtract the 5. Well, where do I do that? Everywhere. All 3 pieces, I got to subtract the 5. Okay, so 5 minus 5 gives me 0. I'm still going to bring down my inequality symbol. Keep it the same because we did not multiply or divide by a negative. In the middle, I have just plain b because the 5's cancel. Bring down the inequality symbol. Again, did not change because I did not multiply or divide by a negative. And then 9 minus 5 is 4. Now this one, some people think is a little bit easier to graph, simply because the values are sandwiched in between the 0 and the 4. The b is in between 0 and 4, so my values are between 0 and 4. So I have my 0 and 4 tick marks on my number line. And now 0 is going to get a solid dot, but my 4 gets an open dot. Now why is the 0 solid? Yeah, because it has that line underneath, and the 4 does not have a line, so it's open. Now let's look at where we're going to shade. Where we shade, b is in between the 2 numbers, so I shade in between the 2 numbers. Super easy. Okay, now let's write our interval notation. So it starts at 0. 0 is equal, so it gets a bracket. It goes to 4, but 4 is an open dot, so it gets a parenthesis. Alright, number 3 looks the same as number 2. We're still solving that stuff in the middle. We still have 3 separate pieces. What am I going to do to solve for that? I'm going to divide by negative 2. Ooh, we're dividing by negative. I think this might be the first problem we've had to do that. So negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3. And then, yes, we need to switch the inequality direction because we have divided by negative. 2 divided by 2, that's just 1, so our n stays. Again, we have to switch the inequality direction. And then what is 2 divided by negative 2? Yep, negative 1. Okay, but look, the inequalities are kind of going in the wrong direction. Okay, sorry about that. I wrote those backwards, so I fixed it. So most people, because they're looking like this and the negative number is on the right, and for some reason we don't like that, you can flip the whole thing around, but when you flip it, you have to remember to re-flip your inequality symbols. Some people don't like doing that. They just want to go straight to the graph. That's fine. We can go straight to the graph. Okay. So on my number line, whatever you do, remember your negatives go on the left, positive go on the right. You're going to have solid dots for both because the lines are underneath. Now the trick is just figuring out where do we shade. Well, that part didn't change. The N is still sandwiched in the middle, so the N, or the shading, is all in the middle, so that was where I shade on my number line. Let's look at our interval notation. 1 is on the left, so I'd go from negative 1. It's going to have a square bracket because it's equal to, I'm going to go all the way to 3. 3 also has a square bracket because it's equal to. Okay, so we have another problem. This is number 4. It looks just like number 2, right? We have the 3 separate pieces. Remember, we're solving what's in the middle. So I'm going to subtract 3 from all 3 pieces. That's going to get me my new equation. So negative 3, that's not 0. It's negative 6. Symbols don't change because we did not multiply or divide by negative, and then 5 minus 3 is 2. So on our number line, we're going to put in our values. The negative 6 goes on the left. 2 goes on the right. Okay. The negative 6 gets an open dot, but the 2 gets a solid dot. Now where do we shade? R's in the middle, shading's in the middle. Super easy to remember. Okay, in interval notation, negative 6 is on the left, comma 2 on the right. Negative 6 is an open dot, so it gets a parenthesis. 2 is closed, so it gets a bracket. Okay, number 5. Which problem does number 5 look like? That's correct. It looks like number 1. So I've got 2 separate pieces. They don't mix. I don't have to do anything between the 2 of them that goes back and forth. We just saw each individual one. So on the first half, the left side, I'm going to divide by 6. I get r less than equals to negative 5. That one's done. R is by itself. The right one, I have a 4r greater than 12. We're going to divide by the 4. And I get r is greater than or equal to 3. That one is now finished. Okay, so we put on our number line. Negative 5 goes on the left. 3 goes on the right. The negative 5 has a solid dot. 3 has a solid dot. That's awesome. Now where are we going to shade? Negative 5 shades to the left. And the positive 3 shades to the right. Are we surprised? Not really, because they told us it was an or at the very beginning. So we knew we were going to have one end or the other on our graph. That's kind of a common sense check. So for the interval notation, we go negative infinity up to my negative 5. Does it have a bracket or a parenthesis? Yes, it has a bracket. Well, how do you know? Oh yeah, it's got that closed dot. Very good. We do the same thing on the 3. It also has the bracket, and we go all the way to positive infinity. Okay. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is an OR. So which problem does that look like? It looks like number 1. So when I get my answer, I'm expecting it to look like number 1. So let's solve the stuff on the left. The inequality on the left, we're going to add 9 to both sides. Super easy. So I have 2x now is greater than, what's 9 minus 7? 2. Divide by 2, and I get x is greater than 1. Alright? Left side, I got to subtract that 5. Okay, so I have 7x less than equal to, that would be negative 35. We're going to divide both sides by 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5. Remember, it stays negative. Now we're ready for our number line. We have both halves. So the negative 5 goes on the left because it's smaller. The 1 goes on the right. Okay, the negative 5 has an equal to, so it gets a big old dot. The 1 has an open spot because it does not have the equal to. Now which way do we shade? Negative 5, we shade to the left. And from the 1, arrows pointing to the right, we shade to the right. Super easy. It's an OR statement, so that's what we were expecting. So we're going to go from negative infinity to negative 5. Yes, you got it. We got a bracket. Oh, but why is there a parenthesis on the 1? Yes, because it's an open dot. We go all the way to positive infinity. Good job. All right, number 7. Number 7 looks a little different, but that's okay. It's still an OR statement. Okay? So we're still going to work on the left half separate from the right half. So on the left half, I need to add that 4 to both sides. Okay? So in adding that 4, I now get 12n is greater than what? Yep, 60. Now 60 is divisible by 12. So I'm going to go ahead and divide it, and I get a 5. N is greater than 5. Left half, we're going to add that 4. I have a 12n. Less than equal to 12. Huh. Well, 12 is divisible by 12. We get a 1. Okay, let's put that on our number line. Which number is going to go on the left? Yep, the 1 goes on the left. 5 goes on the right because 1 is smaller. The 5 has an open circle. What kind of circle does the 1 have? It has a closed circle. Now, where are we going to shade? For the 5, where do we shade? Yep, for the 5 is greater. It's pointing to the right, so we shade to the right. The 1 is less, so we're going to shade to the left. And now we can write our interval notation. We're going to go negative infinity up to that 1. Yep, 1 gets the square bracket. Why does 5 have a parenthesis, not a square bracket? Do we not love him? Yeah, you got it. We don't love him. No, it's because of that open circle right there. That's why he's got the parenthesis. Alright, number 8. Do you think it's going to look like number 1 where we're shading on the outsides, or number 2 where it's sandwiched in the middle? Yeah, it's going to look like number 1, and we know that because of that OR statement right there that I put in the box for us. Okay, so let's just solve the left and solve the right. So on the left, we got to subtract the 8 from both sides, and now I have a negative 6r less than 0. Can we have that? Yeah, we can have that. That's okay. You can have no money. It's not fun, but it's possible. But because we're dividing by a negative 6 in the very next step, remember we have to change the direction of our inequality symbol. 0 divided by 6 is still 0. Nothing fancy going on there. Alright, so now let's solve the right-hand side. What are we going to do with that 2? Yeah, we're going to add the 2. So now I have 12r less than equal to, what? Negative 96. Woo, big numbers, but that's okay because negative 96 is divisible by 12. And it's going to give me a negative 8. So now I have both halves solved. We put it on the number line. So what's going to come first, the 0 or the negative 8? Yeah, negative 8 comes first on the number line, then the 0. Okay, 0 has an open dot, negative 8 has closed dot. From 0, we're going to shade to the right because my arrow points to the right, and from negative 8, we shade to the left because the inequality symbol points to the left. Now let's do our interval notation. We're going to go from negative infinity to negative 8. Is it bracket or parenthesis? Yep. Is it 0 bracket or parenthesis? Yeah, it's a parenthesis. Do the infinities always get parentheses? Yes, they do. And it's not because we don't love them, it's just because we don't know where they end. Okay, number 9 looks the same and different from number 8. So I have two separate pieces with a word in the middle, but this one's not an or, it's an and. Remember, the and gets sandwiched in between the two numbers. So I'm expecting the answer to look closer to number 2 than to number 1. But we'll have to wait and see if they're just messing with us, okay? But that would be my first guess, right? So let's just work the left side and see what happens. So we're going to add that 9 to both sides. So now I have 9n less than equal to 9. Well, that's pretty. That means that n is less than equal to 1 because I divide both sides by 9. We can handle that. Now let's look at the left side. I got to subtract the 1. So I have 12n greater than or equal to negative 60. Oh wait, we've seen that before. So 60 is divisible by 12 5 times. So I got n greater than or equal to negative 5. Now let's put it on the number line. Let's see what happens. Negative 5 goes on the left, 1 goes on the right. Negative 5 has a closed dot, 1 has a closed dot. But let's see what happens in between. So negative 5 is being shaded where? To the right. Okay? And the 1 is being shaded to the left. So looky there, it meets in the middle. That's just awesome. Okay? So we're going to have our negative 5 to 1, and they both get square brackets because they both have closed dots and they're both being included. Alright, number 10. Got 3 problems left, okay? So I see the and in the middle. And is sandwiched, so I'm expecting my answer to look something like number 2. Let's see what happens. So on the left, we need to get rid of that 9, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So I have negative 10x greater than or equal to 11 plus 9 is 20. Now we got to divide by negative 10. Well, 20 divided by negative 10 is negative 2, but we just divided by a negative. So what do we have to do when we divide by a negative? Yeah, we got to change that inequality symbol. Okay? So now that we've changed the inequality symbol, we get x is less than or equal to negative 2. They're really messing with us now. Let's do the right-hand side, see what happens. Okay, so I got that negative 1. We're going to add 1 to both sides. So I have negative 11x less than or equal to 88. Well, I got to divide by a negative number. 88 divided by negative 11 is negative 8. But we divided by negative. So what happens to the inequality symbol? Yeah, it's going to change direction, so we got to flip it over. And that's okay. Alright? So now my x is greater than or equal to the negative 8. So let's draw our number line in here. Negative 8 or negative 2, what comes first? Yeah, the negative 8 comes first. Then the negative 2. Cool part, they're both equal to, so they both get closed dots. But let's look at where we're supposed to shade. From negative 2, it says shade to the left. Okay? And from negative 8, it says shade to the right. So it meets in the middle. So we have our sandwich, just like we thought we would because we had an and statement. So I go interval notation is from negative 8 to negative 2. both have closed dots, so they both get brackets. Alright, now back to some easy problems. Working number 11. Number 11, I have 3 parts, something sandwiched in the middle. The middle part's what we're trying to solve. So we're going to add the 4 to all 3 pieces. It gets a little crazy, but that's okay. We can handle it. So negative 64 plus 4 is negative 60. Drop down the inequality symbol. Just a 6b left in the middle. Drop down the inequality symbol. Negative 22 plus 4 is negative 18. Okay, now I got to divide all 3 pieces by 6. Well, that should be easy. That gives me a negative 10. In the middle, I have just a b. Divide by 6, and I get negative 3. Now we're ready to do our number line. The cool part is, with these type of problems, the numbers are already in order. So I have my negative 10 on the left and my negative 3 on the right. Do they have equals? No, they do not. So they both get open dots. And because B is in the middle, I shade in the middle. Alright, so we're going to go from negative 10 to negative 3, and they both get parentheses. Alrighty then, last problem. Yay! Okay, we have an OR statement. OR, so is it going to look like number 1 or number 2? Yep, it's going to look like number 1. Okay, so I'm expecting something that looks like number 1. Let's solve the left half. I got to get rid of that 6. So I'm going to subtract the 6, so now I have 2p less than equal to what? Yep, 18. 24 minus 6 is 18. Divide by 2. Do I need to flip the inequality symbol? No, it's a positive 2. We only do the change in inequality symbol when we multiply or divide by a negative. Okay, left-hand side, I need to add that 11. So I have 5p greater than or equal to what? Yep, that's 50. Well, that's easy. 50 divided by 5 is 10. So I got p greater than or equal to 10. So let's draw our number line. What goes on the left? Yep, 9 goes on the left, 10 goes on the right. Lesser numbers on the left. Does the 9 have a closed dot or an open dot? Closed. 10 has a close. From 9, we're shading to the left because the arrow points to the left. From 10, we shade to the right because the arrow points to the right. And it looks almost identical to number 1, just like we were expecting. So in our interval notation, I'm going to go from negative infinity to 9. Does 9 have a closed bracket? Yes, it does. It has a bracket because there's a closed dot. What about 10? Yep, it has a closed bracket, and then we go all the way to positive infinity. And this concludes the practice problems for the compound inequalities lesson.